So what's going on this Thursday?
The general election between Labour and the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, and I don't know.
So they're the three main parties.
Yeah.
Do you know who any of the people are who are involved?
So for the Conservatives there's Theresa May, and for Labour there's Jeremy Corbyn, and I don't know who's for Liberal Democrat.
If you were able to vote, who do you think you would vote for and why?
Labour, because they're building more hospitals, and it'll be good because then more people will get cared for in the UK.
Do you think it's important that people who are old enough to vote go and vote?
Yes, because if you've got a vote, there's point in voting, because else you're just wasting a vote for the country.
Do you know what's going on this Thursday?
It's the general election between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn.
And who do they represent?
Jeremy Corbyn is the Labour team, I think, and Theresa May, I don't know.
Do you know anything else about them?
No.
Are you allowed to vote?
No, because I'm not old enough.
Do you have an idea of who you might vote for if you were old enough?
Not really, because I've been up and about, so I think my stepdad would know though.
Do you think you will vote when you are old enough?
Yes, because it's very important, because it makes a big difference.
So what's going on Thursday?
I know Thursday is the general election, and I know Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn is part of it. I can't remember the names of the other people, but I know I believe it's for Prime Minister, after the last Prime Minister resigned.
So do you know who the parties are?
I know there's Labour, there's the Tory party. I know there's a separate party, I believe it's one about peace. I can't remember the name of who leads it, but I remember he's part of it.
Okay. Do you think it's important that people go and vote?
I believe it is, because at the end of the day, you should choose who you want to be our Prime Minister, and you have your right to say whether you want a certain person to be it or not.
If you could change one thing for the country, what would you do?
I would change the way attitude and people's behaviour is, and see if we can open an area for people with mental illnesses or who need help with controlling anger or just helping calm down sometimes.
So boys, do you know what's happening on Thursday?
The election.
Can you tell me anything about it?
It is going to be a new election for a Prime Minister, and one of the people I know that are running is named Jeremy Corbyn.
And do you know the names of any of the parties involved?
There is the Democratic Party, and I don't know the other names.
Okay. If you were old enough, would you go out and vote, boys?
Yes.
Can you tell me why you think that's important?
Because if you help vote, it can, and if you think that a certain person may be good for our country, and whoever gets the most votes, lots of more people also think the same thing that you are thinking. So obviously voting for a new Prime Minister, or basically voting in any election is very important, because it's all about what you think is best for the lives of other people and your country.
Excellent. And if you were Prime Minister, what thing would you change for the better?
I would change the people who live on the streets and build more homes for them so they can live in homes and enjoy life. I would do my best to stop terrorism and also help the homeless.
So what's happening on Thursday?
The general election for a new Prime Minister.
Do you know who might be involved?
No, because I haven't seen the news.
Okay, so we're voting for a new Prime Minister. Do you think it's important that if you're old enough that you go and vote?
I guess it depends. I guess it depends because then sometimes security guards. It depends what age if they let you in or not.
So if you were old enough and they let you in, would you say it's something people ought to be doing?
I guess I'd say that.
Okay, and if you were Prime Minister, what would you do differently?
I'd probably change I'd make our country a peaceful place more.
What's going on Thursday?
There's going to be an election to pick a new Prime Minister.
Do you know who's involved?
Theresa May and Ermine.
Do you know which parties they represent?
There's a green one team and a red team.
And do you know anybody who's going to vote in the election?
You've got to be over 18 to do it, so adults
And when you're old enough, do you think you'll be going to vote?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's nice to vote and you can, it's like you have a choice to do something, so it's a good time to vote.
So what's happening on Thursday?
The general election.
Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I know it's between Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, and the Conservative leader, Theresa May.
Who do you support? If you were able to vote, who would you vote for?
If I was able to vote, I would vote for Theresa May and the Conservatives Party.
And when you are old enough, do you think you will be voting?
Yeah, probably.
Do you think it's important?
Yeah, because if somebody says, well, I want this person to win, then you should vote if you want them to win. That's because it's important.
And if you had the chance to be Prime Minister, what would you promise everybody that you would do?
I would stop terrorism in our country because it's happening a lot lately and it's just really upsetting. And I would stop just wars around the world, and that's what I would do.
What's going on Thursday?
There's going to be an election, and which is May in London, and I want Labour to win because they're building new hospitals, and hospitals are good because they help people, and they're reducing universities.
So, if you were old enough, do you think you would vote?
Yes,
Do you think it's important? Can you explain why?
because we all get our own opinion, and it is important that we all share our opinions.
So, what's happening on Thursday?
The general election, and there's the Tories and Conservatives, who are Theresa May, and the Labour is Jeremy Corbyn.
And do you think it's important that people go and vote on Thursday?
Yeah, because if they don't go and vote, they might regret it later, because you don't know who's going to be, and sometimes people don't make out who, once they're in control, they're not who they promised to be.
And if you were Prime Minister, what thing would you do differently?
Well, I would like to do something about terrorism, because I know Theresa May wants to ban Theresa May wants to ban terrorists from coming into our country to stop all the terrorist attacks and them taking our jobs.
So, what's going on Thursday?
It's a general election of when we get a new Prime Minister, and you get to vote who you want to be the Prime Minister.
And you have to vote for Labour and different Prime Ministers.
Do you know what any of them are called?
I don't really know much.
The only one I know is Labour.
Okay. So when you're old enough, do you think you'll go and vote?
I would, because you might want someone who really wants to be the Prime Minister, and so I would go and vote for that person.
I will go vote for a Prime Minister who won't let the terrorists come in.
And do you think that if you ever became Prime Minister that you'd be able to make things better?
I would, because what I would do is I would give all my money, well almost, to the hospitals to help people get better.
I'll make sure all terrorists won't come in to our country.